Captain Kleck stood at the observation deck of the United Fleet Station Omega, his 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession as he watched the organized chaos of human military operations below. As the Zexian Alliance's premier expert on human military structure, he prided himself on understanding their chain of command. But what he witnessed now made his antenna twitch with confusion. "Hold on, hold on, hold on," he muttered, pressing his datapad against his exoskeleton. This cannot be correct. Below, on the massive landing pad, a human battlecruiser had just docked. The ship's commander, a decorated officer wearing what Klex recognized as captain's insignia, was directing the offloading operation. Everything seemed normal until that moment. A shorter human female in what appeared to be white medical garments walked up to the scene. She wore no visible rank insignia that Klex could identify, yet what happened next nearly made him drop his datapad. "Captain Parker, these wounded need to be moved now," she said, her voice carrying across the deck. "Your cargo can wait." Klex's mandibles clicked rapidly. How dare this rankless individual address a ship commander in such a manner? In Zexian military, such insubordination would result in immediate disciplinary action. But what happened next shocked him even more. The captain, this decorated human officer, simply nodded and immediately redirected his entire loading crew. "Yes, Doc, right away." "Doc? What rank was Doc?" Klex frantically searched through his database of human military rankings. Nothing. He watched, fascinated, as this Doc proceeded to give orders that were instantly obeyed. Even more bewildering, an admiral who had just arrived on scene stepped aside when she raised her hand and said, "Coming through, got critical patients here." Klex's research assistant, junior observer Zeep, sidled up next to him. "Sir, are you all right? Your scales are turning pale blue." "Zeep," Klex said slowly, his voice trembling with academic excitement. "I believe we've just discovered a serious gap in our understanding of human command structure. This Doc appears to hold some sort of invisible authority that transcends normal military hierarchy." "Should I alert Central Command?" Zeep asked, his own antenna quivering. "No," Klex replied, his eyes never leaving the scene below, as the Doc continued to efficiently orchestrate the movement of injured personnel. "First, we observe. This could be the most significant discovery about human military organization since we learned about their coffee rituals." He made a note in his datapad. "Mysterious rank Doc appears to hold universal authority. Further investigation required, potentially more powerful than previously documented Sergeant Major phenomenon." The implications were staggering. Just how many more secret ranks did humans have? And how had they managed to create a command structure that operated on invisible authority? Klex settled into watch, his antenna twitching with anticipation. This was going to be a fascinating study indeed. The Zexian Alliance military structure was beautifully simple, at least in Captain Klex's opinion. Every soldier had their place. Every rank had its color, and every color meant specific privileges. Purple for generals, blue for captains, green for lieutenants, and so forth. No confusion, no chaos, just perfect order. First contact with humans had happened 3 standard cycles ago when a Zexian exploration vessel encountered a human mining operation in the Proxima Centauri system. The humans, being humans, had apparently celebrated by sharing something called tequila with the Zexian crew. The resulting diplomatic incident was still classified, but rumors suggested it involved 2 Zexian admirals trying to dance something called the Macarena. "Captain Klex." Commander Blitz's voice crackled through the communication system, interrupting his reminiscence. "Your latest report about this Doc phenomenon has Central Command quite concerned." Klex adjusted his ceremonial rank indicators, ensuring the blue strips were perfectly aligned. "Commander, since the establishment of our joint military operations with humans 6 months ago, we've documented 47 instances of these Docs exercising authority outside normal command structures." "Explain it to me again," Blitz said, his tone carrying the distinctive click pattern of frustration. How does their system even function without color-coded rank indicators? Klex brought up his research notes on the holo display. Humans use a fascinating system of small metallic or fabric symbols attached to their uniforms. But here's the truly baffling part, Commander. These docs often wear no military indicators at all. Just white garments, sometimes decorated with mysterious symbols like snakes wrapped around sticks. Preposterous, Blitz exclaimed. How do they know who to obey? That's the most intriguing part, sir. They just know. I've seen a doc walk into a room full of high-ranking officers, say something about quarantine protocols, and within minutes, even their most senior commanders are following orders. Commander Blitz's antenna drooped in confusion. Have you considered the possibility of mind control? Tested for that in week 2, sir. No unusual psychic emanations detected, though we did discover they consume concerning amounts of something called coffee, which might explain their species' general tendency toward hyperactivity. The commander pulled up footage from recent joint military exercises. On screen, human and Zexian troops were running combat drills together. The Zexians, their rank colors gleaming, moved in perfect formation. The humans, well, they were effective, but their organization seemed chaotic to Zexian sensibilities. When we established these joint operations, Blitz mused, we thought we understood their command structure, generals at the top, then admirals, captains, and so forth. But these docs, they operate outside the hierarchy entirely. Klex nodded enthusiastically, causing his rank indicators to jingle. And there's more, sir. We've identified other mysterious ranks as well. There's something called a Master Chief that even generals speak to with respect. And do not get me started on the entity known as Supply Sergeant. By the first egg, Blitz whispered. How deep does this go? Permission to continue my research, sir. I believe understanding these hidden power structures is crucial for successful joint operations. Granted, Blitz replied. But be careful, Captain. We don't want another incident like the great coffee misunderstanding of last month. Klex shuddered, remembering the chaos that ensued when a well-meaning Zexian officer had replaced all the coffee with a healthy algae smoothie. 3 human sergeants had nearly started an interstellar incident. Understood, sir. I'll proceed with caution, but I must know, what makes a doc a doc? The joint training exercise on Moonbase Alpha was proceeding exactly according to protocol. Captain Klex watched with satisfaction as color-coded Zexian troops moved in perfect synchronization with their human counterparts. That satisfaction lasted exactly 4 minutes and 23 seconds. Alert! Alert! Chemical leak in Section 7! The announcement blared through the facility speakers. The base commander, General Rodriguez, immediately took charge. All personnel evacuate through the main corridor to... Belay that order! A sharp voice cut through the chaos. Dr. Sarah Chen, the base's chief medical officer, stepped forward. She wasn't wearing any rank insignia, just her usual white coat with that puzzling snake stick symbol. Captain Klex nearly swallowed his translation device. The audacity, interrupting a general. He quickly activated his recording equipment. This would make fascinating data for his report. The main corridor runs past the chemical storage facility, Dr. Chen announced, her voice carrying that unmistakable doc authority. Everyone will evacuate through the maintenance tunnels, now! General Rodriguez, a decorated veteran with 30 years of service, didn't even hesitate. You heard the doc. Maintenance tunnels. Move it, people. Klex watched in amazement as hundreds of troops, both human and Zexian, changed direction without question. His assistant Zeep was practically vibrating with confusion. But... Zeep stuttered, his antenna tied in knots. The general has purple rank indicators. The doc has no indicators. This violates at least 15 protocols. A group of human sergeants ran past, helping direct traffic. One of them overheard Zeep and laughed. First time seeing Doc pull rank, huh? Just wait until she gets really fired up. The evacuation proceeded through the maintenance tunnels, a cramped route that had Zexian soldiers folding their extra appendages uncomfortably. Captain Klex squeezed through, still recording, when he heard Dr. Chen's voice again. "You two, grab the emergency med kits from storage room B. You three, help me set up a triage point, and someone get me coffee. The good stuff, not that vending machine sludge." Orders were being followed instantly. Even more shocking, a Zexian medical officer wearing the prestigious silver-blue stripes of senior rank quietly stepped aside when Dr. Chen pointed to where she wanted equipment placed. "Captain," Zeep whispered urgently, "our protocols state that in joint operations, command authority must follow the Unified Rank Agreement of 2157. This dock is operating completely outside the system." Before Klex could respond, Dr. Chen appeared in front of them, somehow managing to simultaneously check a datapad, drink coffee, and give orders. "You two, good. I need your help. Your extra arms will be perfect for holding multiple IV bags." Klex found himself automatically following her orders before his brain caught up with his legs. "But we haven't filled out the proper forms for medical assistance reassignment." "Forms?" Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow while expertly inserting an IV into a patient's arm. "Honey, I've got possible chemical exposure victims here. Forms can wait." The next 2 hours were a blur of activity. Dr. Chen orchestrated a complex medical response, treating both humans and Zexians for chemical exposure. She gave orders to generals, ignored protocol completely, and somehow managed to save everyone, while simultaneously teaching 3 junior medics proper treatment techniques. When the crisis was finally over, Captain Klex sat in the debriefing room, his datapad full of observations. Commander Blitz's hologram appeared, looking concerned. "Report, Captain. How many protocols were violated during this incident?" Klex checked his notes. "By our standards, approximately 73, sir, but it worked. The dock's unorthodox commands resulted in 0 casualties and minimal exposure effects." "Fascinating," Blitz mused. "And the human general allowed this?" "Allowed? Sir, he actively enforced her orders. When one lieutenant questioned the evacuation route, the general said, and I quote, 'When Doc speaks, you better listen, son, unless you want to find yourself scheduled for surprise vaccinations for the next year.'" Commander Blitz's antenna twitched thoughtfully. Perhaps we need to reconsider our understanding of effective command structures." "Sir," Klex added, "Dr. Chen is now insisting all Zexian medical personnel attend what she calls emergency response training tomorrow morning." "But that's not in the protocol schedule." "Sir," she said, and again I quote, "protocols don't save lives. People save lives. Oh, and she wants better coffee in all medical facilities. She says it's non-negotiable." The commander was quiet for a long moment. "Add premium coffee dispensers to all joint medical facilities immediately. If we've learned anything today, it's that you don't argue with Doc." The research lab aboard the Zexian flagship buzzed with activity as Captain Klex and his team attempted to understand the Doc phenomenon. Holographic displays showed various human rank structures, medical symbols, and an increasingly complex web of theories. "Look at this footage again." Klex pointed at a screen showing Dr. Chen ordering around a squadron of Marines. "According to human regulations, she's technically a civilian contractor. Yet here she is, telling elite warriors to, and I quote, 'drop and give me 20 push-ups for forgetting their annual checkups.'" Junior Observer Zeep raised 3 of his hands. "Sir, I have a theory. Perhaps Doc is actually a secret rank above Supreme Commander. Notice how they wear white, the color that contains all other colors." "Interesting hypothesis, Zeep. Add it to the others." Klex glanced at their theory board, which now included Theory 1. Docs are actually ancient human warrior priests. Theory 2. The snake symbol grants mystical authority. Theory 3. All human military personnel are secretly terrified of needles. Theory 4. Docs have mind control powers fueled by coffee. Theory 5. White coats are actually advanced stealth command suits. The door slid open and Commander Blitz entered, looking frazzled. "Captain, your latest requisition form. You requested 1,000 human medical journals and a coffee machine." Essential research materials, sir. We must understand. Yesterday I saw a doc tell an admiral to sit down and shut up. The admiral did. Even more shocking, they thanked the doc afterward. Blitz's scales shifted to a concerned purple. What have you learned so far? Klex activated his presentation holo. Sir, we've identified several subcategories of doc. There's the standard doc, the super doc, they call them specialists, and the mysterious head doc. But they don't follow any logical hierarchy. Sometimes a junior doc can override a super doc based on something called a specialty. That makes no sense, Blitz exclaimed. It gets worse, sir. They have these gathering places called hospitals, where all normal military authority seems to cease existing. Even their highest-ranking generals say please and thank you to docs. Zeep interrupted excitedly. Captain, I just witnessed something extraordinary in the mess hall. A doc walked in, looked at a Marine's lunch tray and said, no, just no. The Marine, who I witnessed earlier, demolishing 3 training robots with his bare hands, immediately replaced his French fries with something called a salad. Most perplexing, Blitz mused. Perhaps we should establish a new colour, just for their medical personnel. Purple with white stripes. Sir? Klex clicked his mandibles nervously. We tried that last week, Dr. Chen said, and these are her exact words. I didn't spend 8 years in medical school to play dress-up. The white coat stays. 8 years of specialized training? Blitz's antenna shot straight up. That's longer than our entire military basic training. Klex nodded enthusiastically. And that's just the beginning. They have additional training periods called residency and fellowships. Some docs train for over a decade before earning their final authority. A decade? Blitz whispered in awe. No wonder they can command without rank. Just then, an alert popped up on Klex's datapad. His scales paled. Sir, it seems Dr. Chen has discovered our research project. She's requesting our presence in the medical bay for what she calls a comprehensive educational session about human medical hierarchy. Is that good or bad? Zeep asked nervously. The message ends with LOL and something called a winky face, Klex reported. Commander Blitz backed toward the door. I just remembered some urgent commander business elsewhere. Very urgent. Captain, you have my permission to proceed with the investigation. Just keep the coffee machine. As Blitz hurried away, Klex looked at his research team. Well, let's go learn about Doc Authority directly from the source. But first, Zeep, bring the good coffee. I've learned that much at least. The crisis began during what should have been a routine joint fleet exercise near Jupiter's orbit. 15 human ships and 12 Zexian vessels were performing standard maneuvers when the distress call came in. Mayday! Mayday! This is Mining Station Europa 7. We have a massive pressure breach and multiple casualties. Unknown contagion detected in the medical bay. Request immediate assistance. Captain Klex watched from the bridge of the Zexian support vessel as the human fleet's command structure instantly transformed. Within seconds, Dr. Chen's voice cut across all communication channels. This is Chief Medical Officer Chen. All ships maintain distance of 50,000 kilometers from the station. Possible biological contamination. Admiral Cooper, I need your carrier's medical bay prepped for quarantine operations. Admiral James Cooper, the highest-ranking human officer in the fleet, responded without hesitation. Yes, Doc. Redirecting all non-essential power to medical systems. Klex's mandibles dropped. Even more shocking was when his own commander, Supreme Fleet Marshal Bzt, asked, Doc, should Zexian vessels maintain the same safety distance? Negative, Marshal. Your ship's triple-filtered life support systems are exactly what we need. Permission to come aboard your flagship? I need to set up a secondary containment zone. Of course, Doc, the Supreme Fleet Marshal replied, causing Klex's antenna to twist in knots. The Supreme Fleet Marshal had once made an emperor wait for an audience, but he responded to Doc like a junior cadet. Dr. Chen arrived on the Zexian flagship 6 minutes later. She wasn't wearing any environmental protection gear, just her white coat and what humans called scrubs. Your air filtration is better than any suit, she explained, setting up equipment. Now I need these 3 cargo bays converted to isolation wards. Yes, I know they're ammunition storage. Move the ammo to the backup holds. The next 4 hours were a symphony of chaos. conducted by Dr. Chen. She coordinated rescue teams, directed both human and Zexian medical personnel, and somehow managed to drink 3 cups of coffee while intubating a patient. "But Doc," a human captain protested when ordered to redirect his ship's power from weapons to life support, "that'll leave us defenseless." "Captain," Dr. Chen replied while simultaneously checking vital signs and updating quarantine protocols, "if you finish that sentence, I will personally ensure your next physical includes every optional screening procedure known to modern medicine. Clear?" The captain turned pale. "Yes, Doc. Redirecting power now." Klex, furiously taking notes, watched in amazement as Dr. Chen proceeded to order an admiral's flagship into a support position. Commandeer 3 Zexian medical teams. Reorganize the entire fleet's formation for optimal medical transport. Make 4 different commanders say please and thank you. Diagnose and begin treatment of the unknown contagion. Tell the Supreme Fleet Marshal his personal medical bay needed updating. "Fascinating," Klex whispered to Zeep. "In times of medical crisis, Dock authority appears to extend across species boundaries." "Captain," Zeep replied, his voice trembling, "she just told the cafeteria to stop serving something called hot dogs, said they were an abomination against medical science, and everyone just agreed." The situation reached its peak when both the human admiral and Zexian Supreme Fleet Marshal arrived at the medical bay for an update. Dr. Chen, without looking up from her patient, pointed at the door. "Out, both of you! This is a sterile environment, and neither of you followed proper sanitization protocols. Go wash your hands like I showed you last time." Both high-ranking officers immediately retreated, looking appropriately chastised. "But she's not even technically in our military," Zeep whispered, his scales turning a confused shade of mauve. "Zeep," Klex replied sagely, "I'm beginning to think that's precisely why Dock authority works. They operate outside the chain of command because their authority comes from something even more powerful than military rank." "What could be more powerful than military rank?" Zeep asked. Just then Dr. Chen walked past, updating patient charts. "You two, less chatting, more helping. Zeep, put those extra arms to use and help distribute these supplies. Klex, start documenting infection vectors. I want a full epidemiological report in 2 hours." "Yes, Doc," they both responded instantly. "And that," Klex said as they hurried to their tasks, "is exactly what I mean." By the time the crisis was contained, Dr. Chen had successfully treated 27 patients, established new quarantine protocols for both fleets, reorganized 3 medical bays, improved cross-species medical communication, and somehow managed to get the Supreme Fleet Marshal to agree to mandatory wellness checks for all Zexian officers. As things calmed down, Klex found himself in the observation room, watching Dr. Chen finally take a break. She was reviewing patient charts while simultaneously correcting a young medic's technique and ordering someone to replace the coffee machine. "Captain Klex," she called out, not looking up from her work, "I know you've been studying our medical command structure, ready to learn how it really works." Klex's antenna perked up with excitement. Finally, the mystery would be solved. "Yes, Doc. Please explain." She looked up, a slight smile on her face. "First rule of medicine, Captain. The highest-ranking officer in any medical situation is the one who knows how to save your life." The briefing room aboard the Zexian flagship was packed. Captain Klex, Commander Blitz, and even the Supreme Fleet Marshal sat attention as Dr. Chen prepared to explain the mysteries of Dock authority. She stood at the front, sipping coffee from a mug that read, "Trust me, I'm a doctor." "Gentlemen," she began, setting down her coffee, "your confusion about medical authority stems from a fundamental misunderstanding. You think of military power as flowing from the top down. In medicine, authority flows from knowledge, not rank." Commander Blitz raised a tentative hand. "But surely there must be some sort of color-coded system." "The white coat is all we need," Dr. Chen replied, smoothing her coat with a small smile. "Though between you and me, keeping it clean is harder than medical school." But how do you determine who has the most authority in a medical situation? Klex asked, his datapad ready. Simple. Who knows how to fix the problem? That's your highest-ranking person right there. A first-year resident might outrank a senior surgeon if they happen to be the local expert on a specific condition. We call it practicing medicine, because we're always learning, always adapting. The assembled aliens sat in stunned silence as this revelation sank in. You mean, Supreme Fleet Marshal Blizzard said slowly, that authority is based on competence? Shocking, isn't it? Dr. Chen grinned. Here's another mind-bender for you. Every doc's authority comes with an absolute obligation to use it for the patient's benefit. We don't give orders because we can, we give orders because we must. Klex's antenna whirled with excitement as he furiously took notes. So when you ordered the Admiral to redirect power, it wasn't about pulling rank, it was about saving lives. The Admiral understood that. Same reason you all drink water instead of sugar-loaded sodas now. Not because I enjoy being a buzzkill, but because someone has to keep you alive and healthy. The room erupted in a chorus of clicks and whistles as the Zexian officers discussed this revolutionary concept. But what about the coffee? Zeep asked. Why is that so important? Dr. Chen laughed. That's just because saving lives runs on caffeine. Speaking of which, your attempts to classify Doc Authority have been entertaining. Mind control powers, really. Klex's scales turned embarrassed purple. We were being thorough in our research. Look, Dr. Chen said, standing up, medicine isn't about hierarchy. It's about responsibility. When I tell an admiral to sit down and shut up, it's not because I outrank them. It's because their heart condition outranks their pride. The Supreme Fleet Marshal's antenna shot straight up. Is that why you insisted on updating our medical facilities? Exactly. Although you really need to stop eating those late-night snacks. Your cholesterol levels are concerning. The Marshal quickly hid a bag of chips under his desk. So, Commander Blitz summarized, Doc Authority exists because sometimes staying alive is more important than staying in charge, Dr. Chen finished. Now, who's ready for their overdue physical examinations? The room suddenly emptied at remarkable speed, leaving only Klex and Dr. Chen. One last question, Doc, Klex said. How do you get everyone to listen so quickly? Dr. Chen winked. Simple, Captain. I know where all the vaccines are stored. Now about your own checkup. Klex had never moved so fast in his life. As he hurried down the corridor, he finally understood. Doc Authority wasn't about command at all. It was about care, although he still wasn't entirely convinced about the mind control theory. After all, how else could they get hardened warriors to eat vegetables? 6 months after the Great Doc revelation, Captain Klex stood proudly in the newly renovated Zexian Medical Command Center. The walls were still the traditional military purple, but now white-coated Zexian medical officers walked the halls with unprecedented authority. Captain, Commander Blitz observed, watching a senior general obediently take his vitamins under a Zexian doctor's stern gaze. I must admit, adopting the human medical system has had unexpected benefits. Our injury rates are down 60%, and somehow our troops are actually eating vegetables. Indeed, sir, though we did have to make some cultural adjustments. Dr. Chen nearly had a fit when she saw our doctors trying to color-code different medical specialties. A wise human once said, Blitz mused, never argue with someone who can prescribe extra immunizations. Just then, they watched as Supreme Fleet Marshal Bazit himself was turned away from the command center's new coffee station by a junior medical officer. Sir, Dr. Chen said no more caffeine after 1600 hours. Something about your sleep patterns. The Supreme Fleet Marshal, commander of the entire Zexian fleet, actually looked sheepish. Don't tell Dr. Chen I tried. Too late, Dr. Chen's voice called from around the corner. I heard that. And you're due for a dental check tomorrow morning. Klex and Blitz watched their Supreme Commander hurry away, muttering about terrifying human medical practices. You know, Klex said thoughtfully, sipping his regulation-approved single cup of afternoon coffee, I finally understand why humans say laughter is the best medicine. How so? Because somehow, watching the Supreme Fleet Marshal get scolded about his coffee intake makes my mandatory exercise sessions feel less painful. In the distance, they heard Dr. Chen's voice. I heard that too. Double physical training for both of you. Some authorities, it seemed, truly were universal.